Well, hey, Jason, welcome back to Leading is Serving.
Hey, Chris, it's good to see you, man.
It's good to see you too. I am super excited today because this is the beginning of 2023 for us for interviews.
Yes.
And some of these, we learned so much last year. Well, I don't know if you did, but I did. I learned so much last year from so many of our interviews that I really, really enjoyed it. But I know with our new format shifting a little bit, and there was a lot of information all on one podcast. So we broke it up this year, right? Mm-hmm. And so now we're doing some coaching, and then we're also splitting it up so that we can still do our interviews.
Right.
And I'm super excited about that. I really, really did enjoy our interviews.
I am too. I loved it, but the production time last year was extensive. And this has even streamlined it for us, which I didn't expect as much. Mm-hmm. I am super excited to get into this season of interviews. Mm-hmm. We're starting it off with a bang today. I mean,
we totally are.
We really are. And so, guys, jump over to leadingisserving.com. Leave us a rating and review. It's a great way to spread the good of, hopefully you think this is good.
Right.
I mean, if you're listening still, it must be. I don't know. But we would love to hear from you.
We sure would.
We're still taking nominations for leader interviews.
Yeah, if you're a leader and you're listening to this, make sure that it's not a bad thing to nominate yourself to, hey, come on, I would love to do a podcast. Yeah. Because we would love to learn from you as well.
Absolutely. I mean, everybody on the podcast that we've interviewed over, 50 leaders or something like that?
Something like that.
And we want y'all to know, none of us have been pros at this. Even Chris and I. I mean, we had no podcasting experience. Maybe that shows, but
right.
But less than. I mean, I'm thinking probably 3 of the interviews we've had have ever been on a podcast before.
And I don't know how many of them said, "Hey, you know what? I don't think I can do that." And I'm like, "Look, it's just a coffee conversation. Like it's literally like sitting down and have a cup of coffee and just chit chatting."
And we want you to know, minimal editing.
Yeah, we don't do a lot of editing.
Yeah, which just tells you how good these people are.
Right.
And they're wonderful.
This is, so don't be scared. And we can do editing. Like if we need to. Yeah. Like, so if you're entertaining the idea or even thinking about it, make sure you reach out to us because we're looking forward to doing these.
Or make your best friend nominate you. That works.
There you go. And if not, just tell them I did. I'll nominate you.
That's right.
Just give me a call.
But shoot us a message, an email. Let us know what you're thinking if you like the new format and stuff like that. So we'd love to hear from you.
So let's chat about our guest today.
Yeah, tell me about it.
So Erin Smith is her name.
Wonderful.
And she is one of the owners at Spotlight Strategies.
Yep.
And as you know, they do a lot of promotional products, signs and different things. And then she is a rock star. She makes me tired looking at what she does. So I'm just like, man, I'm super excited about chatting with her today because she is just, she's a go-getter.
Yeah. Yeah. And on top of her business growing like crazy over the last number of years, she is also running, kind of founding the Rock the Block fundraiser here in the community, which raises funds for other nonprofits.
Which is just amazing.
It's a nonprofit that raises, that's super cool.
It is.
And I know they have, I look forward to hearing the story of this.
Yeah, so let's chat with her and get some more of this insight.
Absolutely. We'll be right back. Hi, Erin. How are you doing today?
I'm great.
Good. Welcome to the podcast. We're glad you joined us today to tell us your story.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and just kind of jump in with, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, and where you're at today.
So I moved here to Indiana. Let's see. My youngest son is 21, so he just turned 22. So about 22 years ago, and didn't know a thing about what I got into business for, but wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And so I did that for about 6 months and said, whoa, I'm going to need to do something else. And so anyway, I wound up starting a business from home and started out with an embroidery machine, one in my dining room, and had my boys and, Cheerios going over the baby gates and sewing in between naps and all of that. And then got to the point where, increased sales enough to where I actually needed to move out of my home and find somewhere else to produce. And found a great spot in Center Grove that allowed me to a separate building at my home where I was able to go out and do what I needed to do, or late nights when the kids were in bed. And then really that just continued to grow. And then 2008 happened. And yeah, 50% of my business went away.
Oh my goodness.
And part of that was because of just the expectation. Embroidery was really seen as a more high value item. And so we had customers that had money, but they were like, well, we really don't want to get anything nice for anybody because, the other half of whoever we're giving this to is out of a job. And so that seems a little frivolous. And so, yeah, we just, that just went away overnight.
Oh, wow.
And in the meantime, I had known Susan McCarty, who is now my current business partner at Spotlight Strategies. We had known one another and had kind of referred business back and forth. So she primarily did printing and promotional products. I primarily did embroidery and screen printing and promotional products. And so what wound up happening was we literally met in the Marsh grocery store that's no longer there. And I remember saying, hey, how's it going? And I remember her mustering up a fine.
Right.
And I was like, hey, you want to go grab a drink over at Louie's? Louie's Bar and Grill was in business back then, where Tried and True is now.
Right.
And we went and we had a martini and we cried because life was really tough at that point.
Right.
And we just said, you know what, this is ridiculous. We are two smart women and we can figure out how to do this. And so we just kind of had a handshake over a drink and said, okay, I needed cash. And so I went and sold for both companies. And Susan is incredible at operations and processes.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
so she kind of took that piece on. We actually shared employee expenses. I'm sure that our accountant was probably dying at that point in time, but you were just trying to figure it out.
Right, trying to survive.
Exactly. And so we wound up going into 2009, and we ended. So we literally co-branded and co-marketed our companies together, and ended 2009. Both of us best years yet, revenue-wise, respectively. We ended the year, and I was like, we obviously need to keep doing this because we're doing something right.
Right.
So then, it became, well, how do we do this? How do we bring these two companies together? Because she was located down in Franklin and I was located in Center Grove. And so we pulled together I think we had 7 people. We pulled together this board. Susan thought I was crazy because we had zero money to pay anybody to help us. And I was like, I just think I'm going to ask, what's the worst they can say? No, we don't want to help you.
Right.
So anyway, every single person I asked to be on this board said yes.
Now, this board was for what purpose?
It literally was to help us bring our companies together because Susan had purchased a company prior to. I had just started from scratch.
Right.
But we knew we had some issues. We were going to be bringing staffs together. We were going to be, we needed a new name. We needed to figure out how best to position ourselves. And so we literally went out and just asked the people who we knew what they were doing in their lane. So we had an accountant, an attorney, a business development person, had a banker, and a marketing person. And it was wonderful. We had we met about 6 different times. And to this day, those folks are still doing business with one another. So what we thought, wasn't of value in a sense, they're still doing business with one another. 13 years later,
right?
Which is really kind of cool. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, but we only did it for a year, and at the end of the year we said thank you, and then we quote unquote got married in 2011. January 1, 2011 is when all the books rolled into one, and it was trying times for a couple of years just because we had a lot of debt we were trying to get rid of in that whole entire process, but we overcame and just continued to increase revenues every year and whatnot. So now we're here in 2023 and we have lots of new pieces of equipment that I don't think I ever would have dreamt of having. But it's fun, and there's never a day I go, oh, I don't want to go to work. And so for that, I feel very blessed.
Can I ask the question that you were talking about this team? I mean, what made you think to come and ask these people to become a team to help empower you, give you more information to help grow your businesses?
Well, I think at some point you realize you really don't know that much. And so it's like you want to surround yourself with people who are way smarter than you. And although I had a vision of what I thought we could become, I didn't know how to get there. And
is your partner a visionary person?
Yeah, I think so. Okay. Well, a lot of times though, she'll say, Erin dreams up these things, and then I help her figure out how to get it done.
Okay. Right.
But she certainly, has a vision, and we both have very strong personalities.
Yeah.
And so we don't always agree.
Right.
That can be interesting.
I bet. We'll touch on that in a minute.
So, sometimes our staff, I'm sure, are like, oh no. But we also know what our best lane is. And so the longer we've been in business together, the more we recognize when one is really vocal or feels very strongly, it's like, okay, I'm not going to, I'm not going to. Well, I mean, I might push up against it in some respects just to make sure that, everything's been considered. But most of the time, we do our due diligence when we decide we want to go right or left or that kind of thing.
So you go through that process. You have a better understanding on how to best. I assume that they gave you wisdom on how to best move forward, coming from like 2008 where you were both struggling. You now have a good year with them giving you influence, I assume. Is that accurate?
I think they asked a lot of questions that we might not have asked ourselves. And so we kind of just came up with an agenda and said, okay, by the end of this year, we need to have all this stuff figured out so that we have the business plan in place. A bank will actually talk to us, and if we need capital to, do whatever we need to do. And then I think in some respects, I was positioned, the Stitchsmith was the old name of my business, and Susan's business was Franklin Printing. So neither one encapsulated what we were actually doing. So that's how Spotlight Strategies was born, is like, okay, all of that fits under Spotlight Strategies. And so, and our group very much liked that and agreed to that. I mean, they didn't help us come up with that. That was something we had already done. But they used that, I think, to figure out, okay, no, you're gonna need to do 1, 2, 3 over here, and then how are you going to position yourself in the market? You were positioned over here, you were positioned here. Now, how's that going to work together? And I'll tell you, after we thought we needed salespeople, and so we tried that multiple times. Yeah. It did not work, and finally, I just looked at Susan and I was like, the people that are sitting in these seats, entering orders and interacting with our customers, those are our salespeople.
Right.
Because we still to this day, referral business is our number one way. We have grown a company. I would say close to 85%, maybe 75% now. We made the leap 2 years ago to really invest in SEO, and let me tell you, that was a fight between Susan and I, because all of our experiences in building websites have not been a good one. People can promise you the stars and the moon, and then you're like, what are we doing now? And it was just very aggravating. But we could see the writing on the wall with COVID, that people didn't want you coming to sell them anything. And you could, I mean, until they need something, then they'll spend the time to talk to you. And so anyway, we increased our footprint a lot in web stores, which was huge during COVID, and that's just continued to grow. And people, we do web stores for all kinds of people, and so they see us doing this, and if they own a company, they're like, hey, if she's doing this for the team, she probably can do it for my company, which is true. And so we've seen huge increases there. And then I would say the other thing is that on a marketing perspective, I don't know that we really knew which way we should go. And so it was kind of like we didn't ever want to have one big giant elephant as a customer, and so to this day we do not have any customer that's more than 10% of our revenue.
That's awesome. And that's intentional, I assume.
Yes, very much so. Because at any point in time the economy can affect a market, and so we just didn't want to be that vulnerable, as I had already experienced back in my Stitchsmith days. So I really don't want that pain ever again.
Right.
And, and then from a management perspective, I am not a good manager. I know that about myself. And Susan is much better at that piece of it. And so, again, knowing our employees at the time and then what's the next right hire, to grow and build our team. And then we got turned on. One of the gentlemen who was on our board invited us to I can't even remember what it was called, but it was all business development about scaling your company.
Okay.
And so we went to this, and it was like the light bulbs went off, and we just devoured this book separate of one another. Susan went home and read hers all weekend. I read mine all weekend. We came back, and I was like, oh my gosh, we have to do this. And so when I told you we meet every Friday at 10:07 is our huddle time, and that came out of that book and about scaling and making sure everybody on your team knows what the heck's going on.
Right.
We're really busy, so we can't do that every day. But boy, doing it once a week is really imperative. And then I kind of added in on the end is that you have to, and sometimes I get my employees will roll their eyes a little bit like, oh, here we go again. But it's really important. So you have to, at the end of our huddle, you have to say something you learned, something you're thankful for, or a highlight of your week. And it's really interesting because you get to really know your teammates and what's important to them or what they're struggling with. And so we've been doing that now for, I don't know, 7 years or so, 7 or 8 years. And it's really kind of fun because, sometimes you get just the rote answers, it's just a blah week, whatever. But then there's other times where, people are really excited because they haven't seen their family in a year they, whatever. I mean, and so you're like, okay, that's important. So we need to make sure we get out of here on time because they got places to go, and important things that, it's their why for why they get up and come to work every day.
That's awesome.
So I want to backtrack to the dining room.
Oh, yes.
From the one embroidery machine to what Spotlight Strategies is today.
Okay.
And you've talked a lot about the value in your team and the lanes that y'all stay in and the why of why you wake up in the morning. And you said there's not a day you don't enjoy going to work.
There's not. I've not had one.
So what is your lane?
Awesome.
What is the passion that started in the dining room that is still fueling your drive today?
I think it's solving problems.
Okay.
It's really solving problems because really, we have customers that come to us that say, hey, I need a poster board for this. Well, a lot of times they'll say, I need it tomorrow. Okay, let's see how we can figure that out. But then we have a lot of customers who are like, I've started this new business. I'm not sure, which way I should go. Here's my budget. What do you think is the best way to utilize it? So we get the opportunity to speak into that. We get the opportunity to learn new stuff every single week, every single day, just about. Where, a customer will call and say, hey, can you do this? And it's hilarious because most of the time they're like, well, we'll write that down and get back to you. And, and sort of they cut because they know I'm going to say, well, we have to figure it out. I mean, if we don't know how to do it, then let's figure out how to do it.
Right.
We're going to solve a problem for somebody. And, one of our culture statements, as I had indicated before, that, we went through this whole scale issue and it was all about figuring out what is our culture, and we have 4 main pillars in our culture and one of them is Beat Solutions focused. So if you, and we have customers that call and say, I need a pink socks with polka dots on them and I need them, in 7 days. Well, okay, we know we're not going to be able to get exactly that, but our expectation, Susan and mine's expectation is that you're going to tell that customer, well, I tell you what, let me see what I can come up with and, we'll get back to you. And so maybe we can only get pink socks in 7 days, or maybe we can get polka dotted socks in 7 days, or maybe we can have you even thought about a scarf instead of socks? I mean, it's that whole piece of, and some people might look at that and say, oh, you're just trying to upsell or whatever. Well, no, not really. I mean, you're really trying, those people need something. They're trying to accomplish something. So how can I help them get there? And that, I mean, you learn a lot in trying to do that. We do sell stuff overseas. We do have some different folks that we utilize. It's not fun usually. But when price is an issue, it's still much cheaper to get, large volume goods from overseas. And so that's always a learning curve.
Yeah.
And it was a big one during COVID, where supply chains were just a mess. So, and they're still backed up. We're still having issues in certain arenas. But yeah. So, and I guess for me, it's you're willing to learn whatever it is that makes the ship go. I'm willing to do that, and I do enjoy fundraising. So that's some of where that nonprofit piece came from, and I enjoy giving back to my community because I feel like I've been blessed with a lot in my life, and so how do I share that?
Right.
It's more fun when you share it.
Right.
We really want to dig into that, but I have one question before we move off of Spotlight.
Sure.
Favorite project or favorite solution, or maybe the weirdest thing you guys ever printed? What stands out over the years of like, oh my goodness, I can't believe we got to do that?
Oh wow. I should have had time to think about that before I got
Sorry
here
about
because there's a lot of different things that are like populating in my brain. I'll pick out one thing that helps you understand that whole problem solving thing. So, and you can understand this too from an art perspective. So some people think that they have good artwork. And they don't, but they want you to create something with it.
Yes.
To look a certain way, and you're like, okay, it's never gonna. That's just not how it works. Well, instead of trying to explain that, we went ahead and we printed something because the customer was absolutely adamant that they really wanted us to not make any changes, and so we did that, and it of course didn't look good.
Right.
And so then we had to backtrack and whatever. Anyway, the project took a long time, but at the end, even though they had the extra expense in it, at the end they were like, okay, now we get it. Now we understand why, but sometimes you have to be with people wherever they're at in their process of, and be understanding that, like, okay, well, this is going to be painful, but okay, here we go, And so, I would say, but I'm telling you what, we get asked to put logos on stuff. I'm like, they really do put logos on everything you can imagine. We do have a few limitations that we won't, we don't want to, we're not printing anything that's drastically inappropriate and things like that. We do get asked, but we say, we're not the right company for that. So, but yeah, no swear words, and I will say that some of the other fun in doing this is when you have your staff. We have so many projects that come through the door. I don't know them all, and so when you scale a company, that's been really fun. Where it's scary and fun all at the same time. You're out and you're like, oh look, you did my shirts, and I'm thinking, I didn't know that. I'm like, oh, it looks great, whatever. And then you get back and you're thinking, okay, I'm happy because I didn't know, but then I'm a little bit scared because I didn't know.
Yeah. But how could you know everything?
Right.
Yeah.
You can't, right?
Right.
So I mean, I guess from that perspective, an achievement of success in some facts, but it still makes my stomach turn a little bit every day, which I guess is part of the other reason why you want to get up and do your very best, and we take a very large responsibility for our staff who we love, and who work hard for us every day, and so I better get up and work hard for them, make sure stuff keeps coming in the door.
All the more reason why you want to make sure you have quality people on your team, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So if I understand the timeline, then about the time you guys were joining the books at Spotlight Strategies is when a nonprofit idea sprang on the scene, right?
Yeah, and it came
because you didn't have enough.
Right. Yeah, we weren't doing enough.
You got bored.
Right. So literally, it came from a banker who we were working with gave us a call and said, "There's this company who I was talking to them, and I think you could help them." I said, "Okay, doing what?" "Well, they kind of need some PR." Okay, we were not Spotlight Strategies clearly does not do public relations. Okay. And I was like, well, okay. She's like, well, I think what would help is if they're willing to give up their golf course for an entire day and give back to the community, but they have no idea like how to put that together. What does that look like? How do you figure that out or whatever? And I was like, well, okay. And so the one thing that we haven't done is gone back further than 20-something years. So my schooling is actually, I have a master's degree in social work and administration, policy and planning. And I love nonprofits. I have worked with nonprofits like all the way up until I decided I was going to do that stay-at-home mom thing, and then said, nope, probably need to find something else after that. And anyway, so I thought, wow, what a challenge, and it happened to be Ted Bishop, the owner of the Legends golf course.
Oh, okay.
And so we went and we met with him and then figured out, okay, that we think we know how to map this out. And then it was like, okay, now wait a minute, we can't do this by ourselves. So who else are we going to get to come sit on this committee and help us do this? And so we created a committee, and it was called Pay It Forward Johnson County was the name of the nonprofit. And it was really this golfing event that we just grew and grew and grew. And then when it got to be that fourth year, I had said to Susan, my kids are kind of, they're in high school now, and I wish there was some way I could give back to Center Grove. And a lot of times people would think, well, Center Grove has enough money, is what you would hear a lot of times. Right. But if you're in the school system and you live in the community, you understand that is not so. Yes, there's a lot of people who are blessed with wealth in our area, but there are many people who move to Center Grove and skimp by because they believe that that's going to give their kids the best leg up in life, the best opportunities. And so, it was like, I just really wish I could figure out a way to do that. And so then I don't even know how I came up with, let's do a run. Okay, because first of all, I didn't run. Second of all, like you have to shut streets down and stuff,
Yeah,
and
right.
it just, but anyway, so I don't remember where all of a sudden I'm like, oh, we should do this. I do know that when my kids were in elementary school, there was a run that happened, and it was like it was called Race Chase. And whatever happened, whoever was running that race, I guess, decided to stop running it or whatever. And anyway, that kind of went to the wayside. And so I was like, man, there's not anything here, so maybe we should do that. So that's how that came about. And so then, of course, it was like, well, we got to put a committee together again, right?
Yeah,
because we have to figure that out. And it just so happened that I knew the state representative well, I knew the sheriff well, and I knew every county commissioner. So I'm thinking, I guess I'm in the right position to go ask them to shut streets down. That I got the best chance for them to say yes.
Right.
And so I'll never forget it. Doug was the sheriff at the time, and we had to go 4 different times to the county courthouse building because we had remonstrers. They did not want us to run the race and shut down streets. They were certain that we were going to trash neighborhoods and all kinds of stuff. But luckily, we had a lot of other people that showed up in support of the race. And so I remember leaving and getting approval, and Doug said, you have one shot at this. Don't mess it up, And I was like, okay, yes, sir. But we hired Tuxedo Brothers to actually run the race portion of it because we knew that, we wanted it to be top notch. We knew that we needed the races to be exactly 5K, exactly 10K, so that they would be qualifiers for the people who really do run. Right. Yeah, that's important to them.
That's their thing.
And so so we hired them, and the first year out, I think we raised it was less than 20,000, or maybe I can't remember. Anyway, it's been so many years ago, but it was wonderful. We had several charities that participated, but on both the golf outing and Rock the Block Run, the goal isn't just to raise money and give it away. I mean, the goal is to involve our community in all of these different nonprofits who are doing amazing things. And they're all doing it because it's their passion. Right. My passion, I love to help raise money. I love to fundraise. And so it was like, okay, this is great. I can do what I know I'm good at and then facilitate all this other positive stuff, with all these other
awesome.
Organizations. And so you have to participate. And so the deal is you have to come to, if you want to participate in Rock the Block Run, you have to know ahead of time because you have to be at a mandatory meeting in January that we have on the Center Grove High School campus. You come in, you get whatever information I have. If it's changed from year to year, you find out you have to sign up 20 runners and walkers, and you have to sign up 5 volunteers by the end of February to qualify for large grant dollars. And this year we had 18 qualify, and then you're kind of off to the races, if you will. So you're trying to get as many people to sign up for your charity as possible, because in the end, that's how we distribute the grant funds, is based upon how many participants are signed up. And if you're not a runner at all, you can actually sleep in, and your registration will count for your organizations. It's a great way to get people involved that maybe, our families are so spread out these days, but it's a great way to get grandma and grandpa that live in Florida, or, maybe even have people that live overseas. They can just sleep in for you, and it helps your organization.
So they sign up for the race and then don't show up?
For real. It's called the sleep in registration. Yes.
Well, that's my kind of marathon.
Didn't know that was an option.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So anyway, so that helps, helps folks be able to, again, participate if they're really not. But here's the thing. Every year we have tons of people who come out who've never done a 5K before. And, it's so incredibly motivating, because, people are, having been ill and coming, and this is their first race back, or, just never ever thought they could do anything like this, and they wind up completing the 10K. Or we have a couple of people that literally, this is their reunion. They come and get together at Rock the Block. There's 3 guys that do this. They've been to every single race, and it's just it's like their weekend. Rock the Block is their weekend, and they all come together, cool. Fly in, and whatever, and it's just like that. That's awesome.
That is awesome.
Yeah, and then we have we have a lot of kids that participate. We do a free kids run for all the real littles that they might go on the 5K with mom and dad in the wagon, but they want to run. And I'm telling you, that is it is just the best to see a 3-year-old come across the finish line. The joy in their faces is just
that's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I bet there's a lot of interaction, like with just the groups of people and the different nonprofits that are already there.
Right, because you can have a booth. So we create our own main street, if you will, and we have vendors come and set up. We have some food vendors. This year's Lou Malnati's Pizza, so you get a slice of pizza when you end the race. Bigsby Coffee's coming out. And then we have Sweet Escapes that has been, all of those folks have participated last year. And Sweet Escapes is great because they do a ton of stuff for graduation, and so they get a lot of exposure to a lot of people here in the Center Grove area by doing that. So
that's awesome.
That's super cool. So what kind of organizations do y'all have participating this year on the nonprofit side?
So because it's March, when we kind of get started and kind of get in the competition, we kind of call it our own little March Madness. So we have a Center Grove bracket. And in that Center Grove bracket are all of the nonprofits that would identify with the school. So like we have the cross country team that participates. We have the Center Grove dance team is participating this year. There's a couple of Red Alert Robotics, the swim team. I'm missing one of them, so forgive me if anybody's watching or listening and misses that. But then we have a Johnson County bracket, and so those are the nonprofits that really service our entire county.
Right.
And it's everything from Isaiah 117 is a participant this year. We have Assist Indiana, the Refuge. I mean, just anything that impacts children and families primarily, that was our goal. And so if your organization, we have Central Indiana Police Foundation, I mean, police officers are really important. They impact all of our families, right? So it's one of those things where all those organizations, and then I kind of give the bracket update once a week on who's winning, who's got first place, who's second, who's third, that kind of thing. So
little friendly competition.
Yeah, a little friendly competition.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And so I checked registrations last night. We're cresting. We were at we were very close to 800 registrations for this year so far.
Wow.
So so hopefully maybe when I get get to the update. May not be today, maybe tomorrow, maybe we'll be over 800.
Right.
But and we'll see a significant uptick in registrations when April gets here too. So
Right, because the race this year is on
April the 22nd.
22nd.
Yes.
All right.
At Center Grove High School, and you can't miss it because when you come and park in the parking lot, you just follow the people.
What's your normal attendance usually?
Last year
Approximately.
we had over 1,000 participants. The largest race we had was in 2019, and we had like 1,600 registrations.
Wow.
Smokes.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So we haven't quite recovered from stupid COVID, but anyway, hopefully, and really 2019 was like, the weather was incredible. I mean, that really brings a whole lot more people out.
Right.
You can register online up until the Friday before the race at 9 a.m. We shut down registration, and then that's when we compile all the numbers for the charities to figure out who's going to get what funds. But then you can packet pickup starts at the high school at the Student Activity Center, the SAC, and it starts at 3:30 on Friday afternoon. And there you can come register Friday afternoon at 3:30, or you can register the morning of the race as well.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's great.
What do y'all anticipate being able to raise this year for the nonprofits?
My goal was to get us over the $200,000 mark in total. So once we started the race, we've raised a little over $168,000. So I'm hoping that we get to 200. So we'll see. But some of that depends on sponsorships. So, the registrations are a big portion of the proceeds as well. But our sponsorships is really what makes us, make a huge impact. And so Johnson Memorial Hospital is a gold sponsor. Spotlight Strategies is the title sponsor. And then Clever Dogs Media is a gold sponsor. And then we have 7 silver sponsors this year so far. And that's at the $1,500 level. And then we have T-shirt sponsors, booth sponsorships as well. And so, we work that pretty hard because that's, really how we're able to increase the dollar amounts.
Right.
That's awesome.
Right. Okay. So at this stage of the journey, since you're mid-March when we're recording this, and the race is just around the corner, the brackets, so you've got your 18 organizations that have registered and are going to be part of the distribution of the funds.
Correct.
How can other businesses or even nonprofits who missed the registration in January, how could they get involved today, like with the sponsorships and such?
Sure. So first of all, you can go to our website, rocktheblock.org. All that information is there, sponsorship information, and even being able to see from a nonprofit view who's participating, what that looks like, all that information about how to participate there. If you really want to be included on the list, you just need to email info@rocktheblock.org and say, hey, we want to be on the distribution list for next year, and we'll put you on there. And then really what happens is in November and December, there is an email that goes out to all of our sponsors and all of our charities. Every charity that ever participated, we always send out to say, hey, we're getting ready, put this date on your calendar so they know it's mandatory in January. And then we like to have all of our sponsorships, kind of in motion by the end of the year. And then, then it just kind of works like clockwork. But, we have a lot of people on the committee. So, there's somebody that deals with just dealing with the communication with charities. There's somebody that just deals with getting all of our sponsors in and set up and back out, so that it's pretty quick. I mean, you'll never, if you show up at Center Grove High School at noon on the 22nd, you will never know 1,000 some odd people were there that morning because everything is like completely cleaned up by then.
Wow.
So we start really early at 5:30 in the morning, and then get everybody set and squared away. But we have a nice little program before we start the 10K. That starts first at 8:35, where we have usually some kids come in for us and sing the national anthem and some fun songs.
Cool.
And we have an MC that helps kind of keep everything going. So that's not me. Rich Nye. Rich Nye is helping us out again this year and is doing that, which is great because he really interacts with the booths and stuff and helps them get their message and stuff out too. So
That's awesome.
Right. Very cool. Very cool. So if you want to sleep in, if you want to run, hop over to rocktheblock.run.org.
Correct.
Okay, not Rock the Block, because I hear there's a TV show now.
Oh, I was so excited. I thought, oh my gosh, we're becoming famous. Yeah, no.
Yeah, and I think it's like on HGTV or something like that. Yeah, so don't end up on their website. They don't
Right.
sponsor runs that I'm aware of. But rockthebblockrun.org.
Correct.
And you can go ahead and sign up. You don't have to have a direct affiliation with any of these groups. You could pick one and choose to join under them, right?
Yes, absolutely. And once you do that, we do have your email that, kind of goes into our email database. And so then you'll begin to get information, that helps prepare you for the race, as we get to race day. And then about 10 days beforehand, we have a wonderful in-kind sponsor, BAM WX, that gives us blow-by-blow weather forecasting for up to the race. And listen, it was really important 2 years ago. I was so incredibly grateful because we had everybody set up outside because of COVID, and it was like we didn't know what to do. Which way do we go? And he was like, "I think you got a 20-minute window," and we wound up. It literally started sprinkling when we started taking down everybody's booths. I mean, it was just like, it couldn't have been more perfectly timed. And a lot of praying was happening.
Right.
But, yeah, because, you really want the experience to be fun for everybody that comes out. And, I don't know about you, but doing anything in the rain, it doesn't sound incredibly fun to me. But it is a race, rain or shine. So the only reason why the race would get canceled is if Tuxedo Brothers said the weather, and they have very specific things that they do to call a race. So that's not on me. So that's good.
Yeah, that's a nice stress not to have.
Yes,
Right,
yes.
for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and then do you have another question?
Go for it.
Okay. Then for Spotlight Strategies, how would somebody connect with you in terms of business and if anybody's interested in products or whatnot? But it sounds like you're involved in helping other people find solutions too. So
So spotlight-strategies.com is our website. There's a lot of information there about what we do, and you can see projects that we've worked on in the past. We really have 4 lanes of business: printing, apparel, promotional items, and signs. You'll find all that information on the website. You can reach us through Facebook, Instagram, and we're also on LinkedIn. So, any of those places, if you have a question, you can pose a question and we'll see that, and a team member will get back to you. The email that we always tell everybody to use is orders@spotlight-strategies.com. And really, that's the fastest way you're going to get a response. We have about 5 team members that see that email, and everybody knows their lane. And so when we see something come across, you'll get the quickest response if you interact with us in that way.
Okay.
Well, great. Well, thanks for spending time with us. I was so excited that you're coming in today because I love chatting with you, and I'm super excited about learning more about your past and how you've come to where you've come and all the insight that you've gotten. So thanks for sharing that with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
It's been fun. A pleasure. Well, you guys, thanks for tuning in on leadingaserving.com. Go to leadingaserving.com. Thanks for tuning in to the podcast called Leading is Serving. And this has been Erin Smith. And we're just so grateful you tuned in today. Y'all have a great day, and we'll see you next time.